Hi, everyone. I'm Ken Rakowski. Welcome to Metal Connect, where this is Metal Mentoring, where we get to meet an amazing person from one of our Saturdays. Larry is, I don't want to call you the curmudgeon of the entrepreneurial space, but you are the light, the hope, and the truth of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. It sounds like something from Star Wars. Larry resides in Arizona. He's got tons of books. They're all basically bitch slaps to wake you up to know what's going on. Larry, your new book right now is called "Don't Quit Your Day Job," or that's what you're doing an audio book on, right? Why can't we quit our day job?
You know, I just recorded an audio program called "Don't Quit Your Day Job." What you have to know to stay in business. What you have to know before you go in business in order to stay in business. And then it will later be converted to a real book. You know, I do so many, have in the past, podcasts and interviews for entrepreneurs. And most entrepreneurs need to just keep their day job. They really do, because, and I have nothing against entrepreneurism, but they don't do what it takes before they go into business in order to make sure they really can stay in business. I ask entrepreneurs all the time on these programs. I say, okay, somebody told you you were good at something and that's what you've decided, or you bought into somebody's BS on the internet. And believe me, the internet is nothing but hyperbole. Everybody's the biggest of the best and the opportunities are amazing and everybody's going to make six figures. And the truth is most people go out of business because they're ignorant, lazy, and they were not prepared to ever go into business. So I ask them, do you know how to hire people? Do you know how to fire people? Do you know how to manage people? Do you know how to read a balance sheet? Have you done any competitive analysis? Do you know who else in the marketplace does exactly what you do, only cheaper than you do it? I can ask them 30, 40 questions. They're all going, but my brother-in-law said I ought to do this. Or I bought into MLM thing, and they think that makes them an entrepreneur. And the list goes on and on and on. And most of us, really, in the world, most of us just need to count on somebody else to show up every other Friday with a paycheck. Most people are not prepared to go into business and be that level, have that level of responsibility. Most people really should keep their day jobs. Entrepreneurism is tough, and most people are going to go out of business, and they deserve to.
I think that's interesting you said about the MLM, because I find this constantly all over the world, thinking the minute they subscribe into, let's say, an Amway, they are now in business and they believe that they're going to become successful because the book is written for them to move forward. And that's a fallacy.
Yeah, most people who get into MLMs, they run out of their friends at about 200. That's why the average funeral has 200 people. 200 friends is all you got. Once you're finished selling to your friends, you're out of business. And they don't tell you that.
I like how you said funeral, not wedding.
200's the number, folks. It's all anybody's got. You know, a couple of years ago, I looked at that Facebook friends crap. I've got a professional page and all that. And I looked at the friends and I said, I don't know any of these people. These are not my friends. I started deleting them all. It takes a long time. They make you delete people one at a time. And I went from 5,000 which was the max, with thousands of people in waiting. I took it down to about 200 people. 200 people that if I saw them on the street, I'd go, hey, I know you. I know who you are. You know who I am. We're probably friends.
Right. Subject change real quick. I'm in Dubai and I just got done hosting a massive conference out here. And a lot of it was around entrepreneurship. And I saw something that I don't see in the United States. I saw the lack of grit. I saw the lack of almost like that hunger to scratch that itch to make something successful. I felt like it was a population that said, I got a great idea, but that's about it. But I'm going to try to make it work. I was really concerned when I saw that, because it's almost as if they're going to go into business, they're going to fail, and then they'll go get the day job. And I'm wondering, is grit taught in our schools in America? Is hunger taught from the TV shows like the Apprentice, or from all the reality shows around entrepreneurship? Where does grit come from in the States? Why is it so prevalent?
No, I'm not sure it's so prevalent in the United States anymore. I think there was a time it was more prevalent, but I don't think it is now. We've allowed people to suffer in comfort, knowing that someone or something will be there to bail them out if it gets really, really ugly for them. It's not happening so much right now, and we're not seeing the bailouts coming. But I think the lesson in that is that you should have saved some money. You should have done whatever it took to make sure that you could make it during hard times, just like you were making it in good times. Very few people save ahead of time and can say that I've got a year's worth of all my expenses set aside. Very few people are that way. And then sometimes a bump in the road happens. You know, this is a horrible thing, and I'm not downplaying it at all. And I understand the horrible things that are putting people out of business right now, and I think it's terrible. However, what goes up must come down. And if you never expected for anything to come down, well, I'm sorry, you're naive. If you're not prepared, if you didn't save. Now, going back to what you said about grit, though, let me just say, I think that grit combines a lot of different core values. I think it requires commitment, a lack of commitment. We're not being taught about commitment. Your word doesn't have to mean anything anymore. We'll let you out of any agreement you ever created. We don't understand. A deal's a damn deal, folks. You said you would do it, so you do it. I'm sorry it became inconvenient. I'm sorry it's costing you money. I'm sorry that's humiliating to you. I'm sorry, but I don't care. A deal is a deal. That's commitment. Are we teaching that? No, we're not. Are we teaching
Mark,
determination? No, we're not.
Yeah. Mark, you wanted to say something regarding the word grit?
Yeah, a friend of mine was the CEO of Advanced Medical Optics. They do Blink, and years ago, their top product was hurting corneas. And I called my friend Jim Mazzo, and I said, Jim, and he pulled the product. He immediately pulled the product, the top product, and I said, Jim, I'm so proud of you. You're like the guy from whatever that product was, Tylenol or something. And he said, I'm giddy with excitement. And I said, what?
Why?
He said, I'm excited. Yeah, right. I said, you better close the frickin' door. And he said, sorry, I swear there, I won't do it again, Ken. But, and I said, why? And he said, and it just stuck with me. He said, we have a good company, but failure is inevitable. Mistakes are inevitable. And he said, as I look at my career, every mistake and every failure I've been through, harder and stronger, and I'm giddy because I know this will do the same, and I have no idea what it'll show up as. I just know it'll make me stronger and smarter. It just hasn't happened yet because, you know, this thing hit the fan. I thought, what a great orientation.
You know,
he's a senior guy, right? He's not.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it, Larry. You own this time, so do it.
And I noticed that Mighty Paul over there in the chat room said, "Grit exists for those that refuse to fail." You know, I will challenge that a little bit. We tell people right now in society, failure is not an option. I see idiots post that crap all day long. Failure is not an option. Failure is always an option. In fact, failure is predictable for almost everybody who decides to go out on their own. Somebody said entrepreneurs have it because they know they're unhireable. Really? You're unhireable? If you're not able to work for somebody else, chances are you're not going to be any good working for yourself either, because the discipline that it takes to work for another human being and take what they have to say and be open to other ideas and so forth, you're going to have to do that as an entrepreneur. All of those skills are people skills that we say, no, just failure's not an option. Never quit. Dumbest speech ever given was never quit. Never, never quit. Listen, folks, sometimes you ought to quit. It's not working for you. It's never going to work. Get real about what's going on. It's not going to happen. Quit. Start over. Begin again. It's okay. It's forgivable. It should be expected. We are teaching people only how to win. We don't teach people how to fail. We are failing our children right now in this country. I wrote a book called Your Kid's Your Own Fault. And I wrote another book called What's Wrong with Damn Near Everything. What's wrong with damn near everything is we teach people to only succeed and that they have every right and deserve to succeed no matter how bad they are at what they do, and to always expect success. It's exactly opposite of what we ought to be teaching people. We ought to teach people how to fail, but we save them from failure. We don't let them play recess because they might fall down and skin their knees and get hurt. You know, you fall down, skin your knees and get hurt every day in business. If an entrepreneur doesn't learn those lessons, they'll never make it. But we are not preparing people for failure.
Yeah, but somebody like Elon Musk really seems like he's persistent, doesn't give up, doesn't say no. SpaceX was a pipe dream. It was crazy. Tesla, you're going against the biggest rivals in the world, being the automotive manufacturers. He doesn't seem to give up. And those are those beacons of bright hope.
I bet he gave up 1,000 different things from time to time and did it a different way and learned and began again. I'm not saying you give up the big picture, but a lot of what we do, we all give up on. That's not going to work. Plus,
so that's the story.
$3 billion backing him up when he started. So he had a little fallback position. Most entrepreneurs have no fallback position.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? There's no plan B.
That's right.
And C,
and, that's why people say you always got to take your A game. I only brought my A game. You know what? To imply that you only bring your A game means that you have a B game.
That's right.
Why wouldn't you just have your game? And it's the best you've got every single time, all the time. Is it always going to work? Probably not. Now, what are you going to do? That's the plan B. What are you going to do? Well, I don't know. I promise you it's going to work. I'll never quit until it does work. Well, you're an idiot. That's just the way it is.
So a few states over in Texas, you got Joel Osteen. He's a prosperity minister. And then you, of course, got the Tony Robbins and all these guys that are motivational speakers. They're the ones that really incentivize people saying, hey, I can do it. They're telling me I can. I got to believe either in this book or I got to believe in this dream and I'm able to move forward. Are they good for people being the motivational people, or are they leading them down a dead end trail?
You know, I started out as a typical motivational speaker many, many years ago, and I realized I was tired of going on stage and lying to people, because telling people if you're positive, everything's going to be all right, just be positive. That's not good information. Sometimes you got to get negative about your life in order to create positive results in your life. And until you're willing to get negative about your life and say, I've been an idiot, I'm no good at this, I need to do this or whatever, until you get negative about your life, I'm fat, I need to lose weight, I'm broke, I need to learn how to save money, invest money, earn more money. Until you get negative, you will not create positive results in your life. You have to listen to some of their messages and say, is it working? Long-term, forever. Let me tell you what works long-term forever. Hard work, determination, focus, kindness, honesty, integrity, being appreciative, being thankful. Those things work. Those are values. We try all of this external stuff and we'll go from fleeting good feeling to the next. You know, I did a thing the other day for a group and I said, let me show you what motivation is, love for your work, and passion for what you do. And I blew up a balloon and I said, everything inside that balloon is all of those emotions. It's loving what you do, it's passion, it's all of that. And then I just let it go. And if what happens to a balloon when you let it go, it just goes everywhere. We don't teach people how to tie that knot in it. And that knot is determination. And it's those other values I just talked about, and hard work and commitment. And that's where we're missing. We try to fill our own balloons up, but we let other people blow our balloons up. That's a mistake. And so I'm not saying Tony's wrong, or I might say a little more about Joel Osteen and some of his prosperity consciousness and ministry. I don't buy most of that. I know that in my own life, when I got serious and I went to work and I said, Larry, this is stupid. Stop doing this and start doing the things that pay off long-term, which is serving others well, finding a problem and solving it, working real hard at it, all of that. That creates long-term results.
So is there anyone out there that you get excited about going, yeah, they really got the right message and they're doing it the right way?
You know, I go back to some of the old guys. I don't see anybody right now that really floats my boat much, except I work so hard at not having to hear any of those guys.
Mm.
Most of the guys who claim to be thought leaders never had an original thought in their whole life. I think thought leader is one of the dumbest monikers to hang on a human being ever. And let me tell you this, you can't call yourself a thought leader and have it be true. You just can't. That's bestowed on you by the masses, most of whom have also not had an original thought and wouldn't recognize one if they saw it, obviously, based on the people who call themselves thought leaders. I proudly admit I am not a thought leader. I am a thought follower. I read everybody. I've read 5,000 books in the last 35 years. I know what other people have said. So when you get these thought leaders come out and say, and there are lots of things they say, you go, Earl Nightingale said that back when he recorded The Strangest Secret. That's not an original thought. I think thought leaders should have original thoughts. I think we have dumbed down society to where they tune into some of these people and they believe them. And that's because they're not well researched, they're not well read. And the first person, I saw a person get in an argument the other day online about a statement that was so clearly Jim Rohn's. And they were crediting it, giving credit for it to, I'm not going to say his name, a ridiculous person in my industry. And they were giving him credit. And one of my friends said, Jim Rohn said that on his tape series that was recorded in 1993. This guy is Take Charge of Your Life, went through all this stuff. And the guy said, well, he probably got it from this bozo. This bozo wasn't alive when he recorded that. And yet they want to argue about this. It frustrates me. Go back to the old guys. Go back to Jim Rohn. Really. Go back to Charlie Tremendous Jones and go back to Zig. Zig was truly, there was a reason he was the king of motivational speakers. That was true motivation. He would blow up the balloon, but he'd show you what you ought to do once the balloon was blown up too. Give you tactics and strategies. Feeling good alone won't change anything.
Yeah. I'm guessing you're talking about Jay Shetty is what I'm guessing. May have been Jay. He's notorious for regurgitating and saying it's his.
I actually wasn't him.
Oh, okay. Well, Jay Shetty's pretty famous for doing the same thing. He had to go back and remove.
This guy, the guy I'm talking about, he'll 10x your business all over the place, though.
Oh, okay, got it. So Grant Cardone. I'm just throwing these out. I'm going to hit one of them because they're all in the same space. But the idea is there really isn't any new ideas. It's all the same basic principle going back to Zig Ziglar and Stephen Covey and all these guys, right?
Exactly. Going back to William James, the father of American psychology, and just keep tracing this stuff back. And Florence Scovel's Shin, and I mean, you can go off into the metaphysical folks who have been saying this same stuff. The religious folks have been saying it from way back, and now it's been repackaged a little bit. Most of this stuff is not new. It's just not new. So I would rather go back a little closer to the source than hear all these reinterpreted ideas.
So what's your shtick then? If everything's old, what are you doing? Just repackaging it?
Well, about 15 years ago, I looked at what was going on and I realized I hated every word that came out of my mouth, and I hated most of the people I was saying it to. I just got sick of all the motivational BS that I was saying that I knew wasn't working. So I took a little bit of a sabbatical and got right with Larry Winget and figured out who I was and had a real honest conversation and said, my business may be over. And I was a very successful motivational speaker. My business may be over, but I'm going to tell folks the truth. And so I went after most of those motivational cliches and really started trashing them. My first book, Shut Up, Stop Whining, and Get a Life, was a direct slap in the face to all of the motivational crap that was out there. And I took on the cliches one after the other. And people responded very well to that because they were saying, maybe he's right. And what I've always told people, I may be 100% wrong, but if what you're doing is not working for you, why don't you give it a try? Really, why don't you give it a try? Everything that I say to people is based on good values, ethics, working hard, raising your kids, spending less money than you earn, honoring, having a real honor for the money that exchanges hands. When people do business together, I honor their time and I honor their money and I serve them well. That's all I remind people to do. And then I remind people, if you look at your life and you say, it's a mess, well, you did that. And, you know, my theme for all these years of doing what I do is your life's your own fault. You did this stuff. And even if something bad happened to you and a meteor fell out of the sky and hit you, what you do about that is still your own fault. And so my shtick is to remind people, you created the life you're living. Don't expect somebody else to come to the rescue. You don't deserve a rescue. You made the mess. You figure out how to clean up the mess. Most of us were taught when you made a mess when you were a little kid, you made it, you clean it up. My mama didn't clean up my messes. She said, Larry, clean it up yourself. You made the mess. My daddy reminded me of that stuff. I've taught my kids that. Now we live in a society, people are not being taught that. You asked earlier, are we teaching people that stuff? No, we are teaching people. You don't need grit. Someone's going to come to the rescue. And so we've created weak business owners because they all expect to win. They all expect business to be perfect. It always works out. The numbers prove that's not the case. The numbers prove 90% of you who start out this year, in less than 10 years, 90% of you are going to be out of business. Why don't we just tell people the truth? Almost everybody who goes into an MLM fails. Almost everybody. All these stupid things we tell people just to make them feel better doesn't serve them well.
So let's go to one of our younger guys here, Nick, who's over in Boston. Nick, what you typed to me, why don't you say it?
Yeah, no, I was just saying there's a lot of younger millennials that are doing this in the e-commerce space, posting content. Look at me, look at my mansion and my expensive car. It's easy. All you got to do is sell products from Alibaba and become a millionaire in a couple months. And I hate it.
Good for you, Nick. You should hate it. But you know, they didn't originate that whole thing either. I can show you pictures of people who are my age who 30 years ago were going out and standing at private airfields in front of somebody else's jet and some car they had just rented and pretending to be successful. That's been going on a long time. And I said earlier, the language of the internet is hyperbole. And people really do believe what they read on somebody's website. They don't take the time to educate themselves because we're not looking for truth. We're not looking for facts. We're looking confirmation bias. We're looking for someone to confirm whatever it is we believe, right or wrong. We just want somebody to confirm it. And Nick, your example is perfect.
And yeah, that's like one of the, I would say, problems with social media. And like touching on when you guys were talking about determination and grit, like kids, I'm 27 years old and I see how kids my age don't have that determination and grit that I see some of these metal guys, some of these older mentors of mine have. It's pretty crazy how, like, I feel like I call it the pussification of America.
You know, I was one of the very first guys doing national news way back, and I called it the wussification because they wouldn't let me say pussification on national TV. So I called it the wussification of America a dozen years ago or so. And you're exactly right. And I really do believe this. I could fix every problem that exists on the planet today with good parenting. That's why I wrote the book. It's the most important book I ever wrote. It's not the biggest seller. It was still a New York Times bestseller. Your kids are your own fault. And it is about raising responsible, productive adults. And you can't do that. You can't make them responsible and productive if they're always given a solution to everything, if they're always perfectly funded to start their next dream or whatever. You got to make it tough on a kid. He's got to get strong. You know, if you carry a kid around all the time, he never learns to walk. Let him walk, let him fall down, let him get scraped up, let him get beat up a little bit. People need it. It makes us tough. Every one of us here learned more from our failures than we ever did from our successes. Why are we saving people from failing? Why? I would not be right here right now if I didn't have a business fail 35 years ago. If my business had not failed, you'd been listening to some other bald-headed old man, not me. I needed that to happen to get me to the point that I was hungry. I was willing to do anything. So I educated myself. So I said, this will never happen to me again. I got smart. I got information. I got mentors. I surrounded myself with people smarter than I was. I got together a better business plan. I saved my money. I did everything I didn't do the first time, all because I failed the first time.
That's what I'm doing.
But it does go back to what you said regarding the Tai Lopez's and of the world that kind of show things that are flashy. It's not their real life. He rents his house. He rents those cars. Those aren't legit, earned, real. But it's easy to manipulate that online. A few emails go out. All of a sudden, you're in his program. In the programs that he has, there's no depth to them. There's only shallowness. And the problem is we need to learn depth. And it goes back to education, school, parenting. Those things aren't there, Larry. There's a whole generation seems to be lost when it comes to helicopter parents like myself.
You're exactly right. That's why I wrote that parenting book. And I took a lot of crap over it. You know, in that book, I say, you got to stop telling your kids they're special. They aren't special. Your kids are only special to you. But we have a whole generation of kids who believe they're special. No, they're special to their mom and daddy because they gave birth to them. Once they walk out that front door, the world is going to judge them based on the value they bring. You don't bring any value, I'm sorry. You're not going to get paid very much. Jim Rohn, I mentioned him a while ago, had a great story about people who make $5 an hour. They make $5 an hour because they provide $5 worth of value and it takes them an hour to do it. People who make $50,000 an hour provide $50,000 worth of value, and it takes them an hour to do it. There's no difference in the hour. The difference is in the value. But we're not teaching people to add value to people's lives either.
By the way, Adam, I know that Tai is a slick marketer. I get it. I know his technology background. Actually, one of the Mellow guys, his wife used to be his girlfriend for the longest time. But he is a marketer, an incredible marketer. Marketing real estate doesn't mean you build good homes. Just remember that. It's about structure, finance, and foundation. So I'm saying that to Adam. Adam, I'm actually going to unmute you real quick. Adam.
Yo. Hey, man.
There you are. But you understand what I'm saying? Marketing is different than actual structure and foundation.
Yeah. But yeah, people pick on him. He's definitely slick, but he's a smart dude. I've been good friends with him for 15 years, and he's built companies. But really good marketer.
Yeah, so many of my friends went through it.
A good marketer. I really don't. I think if you're great at marketing, that's terrific. God bless you. Really.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that over time, the people who come through any program that you do, and I don't know the guy you're talking about at all, so I'm not commenting, but I know a lot of great marketers out there who also really offer some great programs where they do teach people foundational success and give them strategies and tactics, and they have accountability built into the thing. And people do win on the backside of the programs. There's good stuff out there, except my issue is that people lack so much personal responsibility and won't take the time to check folks out. And then they just believe everything they read. That's the hyperbole of the internet. People can say whatever.
Right. People attract to hyperbole. They like a good story. Nothing's ever changed. A good headline.
Yeah, but Adam, you're a great marketer, but you actually do care about every single one of your students or people that go through your program. You're emotionally connected with them. That's really important.
That is really true.
And I think that's the next level. You're almost parenting and mentoring. So that's where I want to see more mentoring and parenting. But Adam, you probably have some lady there. That's what Adam right now.
I'm just heading to the store. Heading to Topanga.
Bye, Adam. All right, so let me talk about that younger generation. So here, Larry, China is about to hand America its lunch. They are producing entrepreneurs that are going through school. They are going through literally like a boot camp of education. And no is a word they're hearing often now because it used to be a yes generation for many of them. They're going through the school of hard knocks for business and they're educated. So how does America, I don't want to use the word defeat, but how can they step up to actually be challenged and win over a place like China?
You know, if we went back to good mamas and daddies, but I'm going to take it past that now and look at our educational system, we're teaching people worthless stuff. I mean, you can get a degree in the sayings of Yoda as a class in college and underwater basket weaving and all the ridiculous things that we've all heard. Those are real college classes. And you know, we have, you can get a history degree without taking a class in American history. That stuff doesn't make any sense to me. So their education system is built to make people good at business and to become entrepreneurs and to teach these things. These, you know, the worst thing you can say is I have a gift. I deal with a lot of speakers and speakers come to me and they want to hire me to coach them. I do a lot of personal coaching, private coaching, small business coaching. People want to grow up and be me. And I say, why do you even want to do this? And they go, well, I have a gift. And I go, well, you'll never be successful. What I do is a skill, folks. It's not a gift. I work hard to make sure I've read all these books and I study how to tell a story. And people who have a gift and think that they're born salesmen, selling is a skill. You can teach somebody how to do that. How to run a business is a skill. You can teach someone how to do that. However, it goes back to something we talked about much earlier. If we're not going to teach those skills, we're going to have a 90% 10-year failure rate, which is about what it runs these days. If we are going to teach those skills, the failure rate goes down, the success rate goes up, and now we have a competitive society again. That's going to take a huge shift in the way people think about education, because that means Lil Johnny and Lil Susie are probably going to flunk. Do you remember when kids actually failed? You know, we used to have like a 50% failure rate. And I'm kind of just flying by the seat of my pants on this, but I saw something that was very close to this. At like the major Harvard, or one of those kind of schools, a 50% failure rate. Now it's up to like a 10% failure rate. And nothing has changed. You can't tell me kids got that much smarter. We've dumbed things down for kids in an effort to make them feel good about themselves. You know, the only place we rank number one worldwide, American kids rank number one in self-esteem. Really?
Can't take that to the bank.
No, you can't. You can't run a business on self-esteem. That's my issue with entrepreneurs. You feel good about what you're doing. You're not serving anybody and nobody's buying your crap. You're going to fail. So education, we've got to think much differently about that.
Wow. Larry, where's your enthusiasm? What are you excited about? It seems like you were really, and you're not down on the world, but you really are seeing it through a lens that doesn't look all that optimistic.
You know, when I wrote What's Wrong with Damn Near Everything, I was on with Brian Kilmeade on his, as soon as Fox News goes off, Fox and Friends in the morning, he runs off and does a radio show. And I was on his show and we had a very frank discussion about everything that I believe is wrong with the world today. And he said, is there hope? And I said, not much. And he said, are we going to be able to change the world? And I said, absolutely not. We're not going to be able to change the world, and I don't have a lot of hope. Here is the only hope. I have a hard enough time changing my day. And so my goal is for everybody to go out, every individual to go out and change their day. Refocus the way you serve people, the value you bring, the level of kindness you bring to other people. Take care of yourself, and maybe, possibly, probably not, that might spill over to your family. And maybe your kids will pick up a little bit of that. And so I really do, and it's an absolute cliche, I think things change this much only with individuals one day at a time. And then over a long time with enough individuals recommitting daily to being good people and providing good service and working hard and offering value and saving their money and being nice to people, all that stuff. If we stack enough of that on top of each other, then we might have a chance. But this whole save the world crap's not going to happen.
Damn. So what do we do then with that younger generation, the one that got trophies all the time? Are you saying that they're just going to have what?
Teach them, let them suffer, let them fail, let them fall down, let them whimper and cry and say, oh, isn't it terrible? Yeah, it is, honey. Dust yourself off. This is life. We're not doing anyone a favor by saving them. We actually do.
Mighty Paul says life sucks. Mighty Paul just said life sucks.
You know, I have a section in one of my speech that says, you know, a guy came up to me right after I'd spoken, and he was confronted me in the hallway, and he said, you know, I was watching you up there, and I just betting you're doing all right. I said, yeah, I am. And he said, well, it doesn't work that way for everybody. I mean, you don't have to go home to my wife, and you don't work for that idiot I got to work with. He said, Larry, you don't get it. Not everybody lives a life like you. My life sucks. And I said, let me help you with that. It's because you suck. If your life sucks, it's because you suck. And, you know, if your sales suck, it's because as a salesperson, you suck. And if your business sucks, it's because as a business owner, you suck. If your customer service sucks, it's because you deliver sucky customer service. It all goes back to personal responsibility. Stop blaming somebody. The only common denominator in all the bad crap that ever happened to you is you.
You go to Mr. Richard Burke. You love this guy, don't you, Richard? Why?
It's just matter of fact stuff. It's just cold reality. You know, I would have told that guy if he didn't like who he was working for that, you know, he's not a slave, fucking quit. And if he doesn't like his wife, change her.
If you don't like how to, you know, everything I do, Richard, is based on the oldest joke in the world. Everybody can do the punchline for me. Guy goes into the doctor and he says, doctor, it hurts when I do this. And the doctor says,
don't do it anymore.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. All I do in my business is go around and say, hey, see all that stuff that's going on in your life that you hate? You know what caused that? You.
Yeah.
Don't do that anymore.
But Larry, I want to point out that one of the challenges in today's society with so many divorces is it's difficult to raise kids and push them in the ways we're talking about here when you got another parent that's you know, collecting them and making things easy to try and win them over and make it so they don't want to be with you. I mean, the good old days were when, you know, dad was tough and mom kissed the boo-boos, but pushed them back to dad to be tough again, you know, and however you reverse or intersperse those roles, that's the way life is.
I agree. I still believe that all the problems in the world that we're going through right now can be tracked back to good parenting. I mean, bad parenting. And when we get good parenting in place, but that goes back to individual core values. I have no control over anything my wife does. My wife has no control over anything I do. She has no idea what I might say or do. And we've been together 38 years last week. We have respect, we have trust, we communicate. Those are, again, it goes back to the values. And those are my values and those are her values. Individual values of people waking up every day and say, how can I be the best version of whoever I could possibly be right now? You know, I did a post today about people are always trying to create their legacy. Figure out what you want to be known for after you die and then live that way. Figure out what you want to be known for after you die and live that way. We're expecting good behavior from bad people. Where do we get bad people? Bad parents. Don't blame the school system. We all pay taxes. We have more of a voice than we think we do. We just don't exercise our voice. And Richard, you're right. It's hard when parents are not on the same page. But that goes back to that one parent and that other parent, their individual values. If we have good values, when we are good people, we'll do good things and the right thing.
Buddy Paul?
Yeah, I agree 100%. It goes back to bad parenting goes back to having parents. Somewhere in society, we allowed people to believe that men didn't have to be responsible fathers anymore. Hey, you know what? You're better off on your own because the government will give you more money or this or that. I think a lot of the breakdown is most of these people, they come into money, and I'm talking some of my nephews and nieces that are single, were raised by their single mom. The only thing they understood was they're getting a full ride football scholarship to become multimillionaires overnight, but they never knew how to be a man. They never knew how to be an actual man. They never had a father.
You have on the other side of that, Paul, not only did we set a system up that rewards mamas raising kids on their own, as you said, there's more money if the father is not a part of the process. So that's a bad system. But we have over 60% of divorced fathers who don't pay their child support. Europe, over 60% don't pay their child support. That's a bad man. And so again, we want to fix schools, and we want to fix the education system, and we, of course, government screwed up, and just business gets screwed up, and corporate greed and all of that stuff. Good people is what we've got to focus on, being good people. And we have to teach people to be good. And you can't teach anybody to do anything if you remove all the consequences. And right now, we want to remove consequences from discipline at school and discipline in the world. And it's never your own fault. It's always somebody else's. Consequences drive behavior. And when you remove the consequences, watch what happens to behavior. Just look around. I mean, this stuff's everywhere. It's all around us all right now. I don't care where you live, and I don't know where any of you live, and I don't need to know. Wherever you live, a lack of consequences is driving the bad behavior we see in our cities.
Let me go over to Matt. Matt, you want to ask a question, Matt?
Well, I have a series of questions. The first question was around forgiving failure. Like the honest debtor in our country deserves a fresh start, and I stress the honest debtor. And so you can fail, and you can get a bailout in terms of not having to go to debtor's prison. And I think that's an important thing. And you learn from your failures, and you also learn that you're going to go on to your next venture, whatever the case may be. That's one thing. The other thing is that not everyone can save money. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. And, we're entrepreneurs, but there are a lot of people who are not entrepreneurs, and they work for a living, and they are paycheck to paycheck. And my most recent comment in the comments was that, it's not necessarily fair. The court system doesn't necessarily set up child support equitably and fairly. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I don't know this for a fact, but not in all circumstances do courts set up child support in an equitable and fair manner, taking into account the inconsistencies and vagaries that may occur for the father. So those are just kind of my questions, points, and so forth.
Okay. Matt, I will say one thing about you say that we bail people out and they learn their lessons financially. That's absolutely not true. 16% of all bankruptcy filings today are done by people who have filed bankruptcy at least one time before. We don't learn our lessons because the consequence wasn't there. Go out and charge up all your debts, file bankruptcy. Somebody will forgive it, and you go do it again. And it'll all be forgiven, and you get to do it again. So I get what you're saying, and I will just say, to me, in my world, and what I do for a living, I call those yeah buts. Yeah, but what about this, Larry? Yeah, but what about this, Larry? And yeah, but, well, the reason 60% of men don't pay their child support is because child support laws aren't right. No, the reason 60% of men don't pay child support is because they don't feel commitment. They have a lack of integrity. I think they're bad fathers. And I don't think all the excuses and the yeah buts that we come up with, but that law is not fair. And this situation doesn't, it's all bull. Men who have children take care of their children. It's the responsible thing to do. Paul, you indicated that a while ago. Fathers are not present. Who's going to teach these kids to do the right thing? Mamas are going to teach them to do the right thing. It still goes back to a parent being responsible. And regardless of any law, you will never convince me that it's okay not to pay your child support. It's not.
I get that. The question is, what is child support set at, and how is it set? That's one thing. The other thing is with regard to bankruptcies, and I've been a bankruptcy lawyer,
Okay.
and I've represented consumers, and I won't represent, and I don't do bankruptcy work, consumer bankruptcy work any longer, but I would not represent somebody that went out and bought a big screen TV 3 months before filing bankruptcy. Okay.
But then
And
you're honorable, and I commend you for that.
And I wouldn't represent somebody that had been a serial bankruptcy filer. And, so I get your point. There are loopholes in all of the systems. But we just have to, sometimes it's hard to generalize, and you have to take into account personal situations.
And Matt, I'm going to give you that 100%. But I think it's better to generalize and look at the exceptions instead of considering the exceptions to be the rule. I do not believe that wins us in any way that's a plus for us. I believe more often than not, people deserve exactly what they get. Sometimes the exception is that people have been done wrong. But most of the time, I believe everything that's going on in your life, it's all your fault. You created it at some level. Now, does that apply 100% of the time? No, but I'll generalize and say it happens just almost all the time. So I believe you're approaching it from, here are the exceptions and let's change the generalities. I say, here are the generalities. Statistically, they apply to the bulk of the people. And now we'll talk about the exceptions. It's just a different way of approaching it.
Fair enough. Thank you.
You bet.
Wow. I actually thought you're going to get your ass slapped a lot more, Matt. Just saying, because Larry is certainly an honoring individual. Just saying. Larry, why, when you said you wrote your book regarding your kids just being messed up or whatever, what's the title of the book again?
Your kid's your own fault.
There you go. And you said that you got a lot of backlash. Is it just because you're speaking the truth and nobody wanted to hear it? What were the comments why people were so frustrated with you or irritated with you because of that book? Thank you.
They had big issues with the thing I said about your kids aren't special. There really is, unbelievable to me, but there really is a huge group of people in our society that believes every single human is special and deserves only good things in life. And I think that goes to everything that we've been talking here. And I believe that specialness creates an entitled society. I think entitlement and political correctness are the two most castrating things that ever happened to our society. And I think they will eventually become the downfall of much of what we all know as society, as we've known it in the past. Political correctness, the cancel culture, so forth, where we're all afraid to express an opinion, an idea, or whatever, because everything that you've ever said in your whole life it will cause you a problem at some point. And I do think the sense of entitlement comes from everybody telling their precious little ones that they're special, instead of saying, honey, you're special here. Out there, you're going to be judged based on how much value you bring to a situation. When we have the number of parents going with their children on job interviews, college graduates, and they're bringing their mamas and daddies on job interviews to negotiate their salary, my God, who have we become?
So Larry, my daughter, when she was born, people would walk in the hospital and go, "You got such a beautiful baby." I go, "No, she's not. She's actually kind of ugly, but she's got potential." Right? And as she was growing up, she goes, "Oh, Daddy, this is making me look good." I go, "Yep, you're going to look really pretty as you get older. You got a lot of potential." And then when she turned 14 years old, she sent me a picture and she looked beautiful. She goes, "Have I hit my potential?" I go, "You are beautiful." And she goes, "I know you're telling me the truth because you never lied to me in the past about how I looked." And it was hard for me as a parent to say, "You know what? You just didn't have that beautiful kid thing going for you." And I'm wondering if the hard truth is the best truth, because then it becomes a directional thing for someone. When they really accomplish something, they know it's true and evident. So telling the truth is painful, but it's so necessary to be doing. The issue is how the truth is delivered. You're pretty harsh. Larry, you're harsh. I mean, you're that bitter pill, but someone's got to still take the pill.
The truth doesn't change based on whether we like the way it makes us feel. Truth is just the truth. If it makes you feel bad, that's going to have to be your issue with me. And I'm not claiming my truth should be everybody's truth. It goes back to what I said earlier. If what you're doing is not working, why don't you try my way? It might. And if you try my way and it doesn't work, go try something else. But I don't see how the core values thing that I've mentioned several times here, I don't see how that stuff ever fails you. We're trying too many externals. The book I wrote, What's Wrong with Damn Near Everything. I had written 6 New York Times, Wall Street Journal bestsellers, telling people exactly what they should do in their business and with their kids and with their personal life and with their money. You're broke because you want to be. It's called Work for a Reason, all those different books. And what I realized after writing 6 New York Times, Wall Street Journal bestsellers, translated into 20 languages, sold a couple of million copies, nobody was changing. Nothing was getting better for anybody. And that's because I gave people lists of things they could do to improve their life. Most people won't stick with a list of things. You can go to a bad employee. We've all had bad employees, or we've known them, or we've been one. You can go to a bad employee and say, "Here's a list of things for you to do to be a better employee." And they'll do it because you're going to threaten to fire them if they don't. But they're only going to do it for that long because they won't stick with it. Giving people lists of things to do externally doesn't work long time. So in the book, What's Wrong with Damn Near Everything, it's about the collapse of core values. Until we change people from the inside and teach them to be good people, I really believe this, good people eventually, through struggles and failures and consequences and all that, figure out how to be good at most things. I believe that.
All right, Larry, you got a few more minutes, guys. A few more minutes with Larry, and then he is gone. So jump on if you got a question, comment, or something you want to add. Make sure you get in there. Larry, I'm guessing we don't talk politics on Metal, and I'm wondering, do you have a recognizable reader and fan? Are they everyone, or do you find them to be more guys than girls? Do you find them to be more conservative than liberal? Is there a stereotypical fan of yours?
Nope. I have as many women as I do men. I have all the races and ages represented. If I skew anywhere from from most of the speaking that I do, it probably skews a little older. And maybe that's because I typically turn down offers. I'm not the right guy to go in and speak to. And I was made an offer to go speak to a big software company that everybody would recognize. And they said, "You'll be perfect for our group. They're all early 20s and they're IT guys and girls and they'll just love you." And I said, "I promise you they'll hate me and I'm not going to do it." I just look like their pissed off grandfather. So it wouldn't work. Maybe the reason I skew a little older is because that's the stuff that I take. And I think that you kind of, Nick, you're lucky. You're 27 years old, you said. You're lucky. You weren't born with the values that you're talking about here. I'm just betting somebody taught you these values. Somebody was an example to you so you can see those things. For the most part, I think you kind of have to have lived a little, failed a little, screwed up a lot for my message to be appealing.
Yeah. One of the guys that taught me those values is on this call, Mike Nicholas, my godfather.
Yep. Oh,
You had an
we call him
example.
good.
And you talk about parenting, and I believe that so much because I've seen some of my friends that grew up getting everything handed to them and how that is affecting them now at the age of 27.
All right, let me do this real quick. Adam, thank you, Nick. You got one of the best mentors out there, being GNO, Good News Only Mike. Larry, are you seeing a difference on when it comes to new people gravitating towards you from different countries? Are you seeing something that you didn't see before in the last, 30 years you've been doing this, where you're seeing a certain part of the world gravitating towards your message?
I get messages from all over the world and emails from all over the world every day. My books sell big in Germany and Bulgaria and in Italian and lots of foreign companies. They're big in South Korea. I have fans everywhere, and my books are translated into 20 languages.
Wow, that's great news. It really is. Adam, I'm putting you back on now. You were talking. Adam, you wanted to ask a question real quick? Adam.
Yes.
Go for it.
Excellent. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned before. My son said I like being a father so much I made it my career. So I like the old virtues: grit, responsibility. What do you see any new virtues ascendant in the culture that correct old non-virtues in the last 10, 20 years?
I tell you, I wouldn't. I speak more to values than virtues. I think we have things that are changing right now in culture and in business. We're seeing millennials who typically, when polled, want to be a part of something, so they don't value money and reward quite like my generation did. So those things are changing. But as far as values, I don't see that those are really skewing much different in the future. I still think the things that pay off for every generation will be those old school values, core values: honesty, integrity, hard work, appreciation, determination, all of those things.
Nothing new school about those, Adam. Those are all the old foundational things we all need. And that's what we preach here too. Hey, Larry, before you go, new stuff that you're working on, like what is the next big thing for you? Next book that's on top of mind for you?
The one that I just recorded, I'll be converting that over to the print book pretty soon, which just means I go back through all the recordings and rewrite. So when it comes out in print, I'm shifting more, mainly because the world is shifting more. This is more of what we're looking at. I do a lot more private coaching than I ever did before, and that's fine with me. I've made a lot of money over the years, done real well, was smart with it because I wasn't at one point. I was stupid and failed. And so now here I am. So I like staying at home. I love my wife of 38 years. And I traveled over 250 days a year for 25 years. Over 250 days a year. I am real happy sitting here with my bulldogs and smoking a cigar and having a fine whiskey in the evening. So,
Marco, if you can ask your question within 10 seconds, let's see if we get a quick answer. Go for it.
Absolutely. So, Larry, our founding fathers, they saw the dangers of dynasties, people of entitled they don't do anything. So they created a high succession tax. So when the wealth of the family had to be passed to the next generation, they wouldn't have to pay high taxes. Now this tax has been eroded; it's going away. Is this, tax policy also contributing to creating the next generation of entitled people?
what do you think?
Well, I was going to ask you.
I think it probably yes. And you know, you saw I read what you wrote in the chat over here. It's being eroded by politicians. Have politicians realistically ever done that many good things? That's the answer to the question right there.
Okay.
Hey, listen,
Good.
guys, I've really enjoyed being with you here tonight.
Larry, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone unmute yourself and thank Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you,
Larry.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.